All right, so we'll give this one another try. Facebook likes to have me start and then restart again. So, hello, design peeps. Welcome to Design Talk. Today is episode 5. We are talking about, oh shit, the contractor. So this has come up in several different groups and conversations. And then I was just watching last week, as we were kind of kicking around this idea, another Facebook Live peep, this guy named Nick, who's got his own contracting business. He'll be joining in on the call here shortly. But so today's topic revolves around planning and scheduling overbooked tradespeople. So I'm not sure if this is, hey Nick, go ahead and join the call, and I'll send you an invite. Oh, there we go. So we've got Nick joining in. This is designed. This is a live call-in talk show. So join us live. Hey, Nick.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. So I'm super excited about having you on. I just posted this whole topic, and then like 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, I pop on and I see that you had on a guest, and we're doing a live call-in talk show about the same topic. So the topic is planning and scheduling tradespeople overbooked tradespeople. And I think you covered a lot of different interesting aspects of it, from the designer side of it and from the manufacturer side of it. You know, I can share my side. The way that this talk show goes, we'll have you we'll have you intro yourself, talk on a few points, and then I'm going to have you exit and then call me back through Messenger, and then we'll take other callers. And that way they can talk to you as well, and they can join the line.
Sounds good.
So can you tell me about you?
Yeah, I grew up in a family painting business, indentured servitude between 10 and 18. I basically didn't get paid, evenings, weekends, holidays, all that. Did a little bit of Army, did a little bit of college, and then started my own painting business. So I've been in business for 10 years, mainly residential repainter, a little bit of commercial, a little bit of industrial, plenty of new construction, things like that.
Are you on the job site right now?
You know what? I'm actually in a coffee shop. I feel very elite, not sitting there with my fingers dipped in a paint bucket right now. But yeah, I have 9 people working for me right now. We have 3 separate crews out in the field. 1 brand new house is going, 1 remodel, and then just some standard residential repaint right now.
Oh wow! Another friend of mine, Nick May, he's got a painting contracting business, and then he's also got the Chase Lounge, and he does a podcast. I think he's been doing that for a couple of years, though. The podcast. He's got his whole business in the painting contracting business.
I spoke to Nick recently, actually.
Oh, did you guys do an interview on the Chase Lounge?
I believe he's doing a podcast for paint business owners. So I think I don't know if it's out yet or not, but yeah, he's a very good guy to talk to from somebody from my position. So.
Yeah, no, he's kind of branching out, and Nick's actually on right now. So, yeah, too funny. So yeah, he's branching out into all kinds of different podcast formats, and that should get really interesting. Again, I see podcasts and these stories. I've got a design wall, and we'll be spinning up here Design Wall Radio shortly, and it's a spot to host all the podcasts within our industry. So it'll be like Pandora, but for design industry podcasts.
Nice.
Because I think it helps us learn faster. So curious, and Nick's looking to join in on the call. Nick, we'll get you in when we get Nick. I'll have to redo the intro, and then we'll, like I said, we'll have you join through Messenger, and that way we can hear you, and then we'll take calls. So you raised some interesting points. So today's topic was planning and scheduling overbooked tradespeople. How's it going for you, and what are you seeing?
Well, it's good. Unemployment is 2.5% or lower in the area of the country that I live in. So everybody who has a job, or everybody who wants a job has 2. and construction is booming. So you can see where those two sort of, people in our shoes, there's a huge demand and really not enough people to go to do it. So through sort of guerrilla marketing and other things, I've been able to fully staff my company to a high extent. I would like to have more, but it seems like I'm finding enough good people to do that. Now, something that might be helpful for you, coming from a paint contractor's perspective, the thing top of mind when we think about a big design project or new construction or a big remodel or something like that is, by the time I get to the project, almost every one of the big projects I do is over time and over budget already. So already, before I'm all excited about to start this project, I can't wait to do the colors and the finishes and things. And then already people are like, yeah, that's great, but you need to get more guys on this. You need to start now. You need to, and I'm put in this tough position because the money's already been spent. The time is already over. The people should be living in their house already. And, 90% of what you see in a new house is what I do. And it's only 3 to 5% of the budget. So you have a whole bunch of this, all those things are circulating around in my mind and I can't move quick enough. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I'm so past 18 years, I design light fixtures for hotels and casinos. And the size of fixture that we build are not your typical, like, normal stuff. So to get our stuff in, they typically have to have one wall open. And so they've got everything in, the flooring and everything in, but they still need to bring our fixtures in and install them. So we're the last guys too. And yet there's still work to be done. They still got to seal up the wall when they're done.
Yep.
So we get that same thing, like we tell them too, 12-week lead time, an 8-week lead time. And I feel your pain, man. It's the last piece in. They're trying to rush everything, and then they still don't even necessarily know what they're doing yet. We get in fixtures where they wanted it painted, and then at the last minute they're like, "Oh, can you do that chrome?" And you're like, "No."
That's not the same.
Yeah, no. The manufacturing process is different,
Yep.
So no, we can't do that. You're insane.
But having
having
said that, I completely feel your pain. But having dealt with a lot of subs on projects in my own home and stuff, we're the worst. I mean, we're absolutely the worst. Most guys have no idea how to schedule a business. They have no tabs on their people in the field. So we're not exactly, good keepers of the schedules and things like that either. But at least from the painter's point of view, man, I'm coming in at a critical time in the project, and there's a lot of testy emotions usually.
So some other stuff has happened. So sure, the unemployment rate is down, but we've also seen entire cities. I live in Orange County, and the entire Santa Ana riverbed is now a homeless encampment. Those people are not employed. They're not unemployed. They're not on. They don't have an address.
Yep.
They no longer exist on the government's record. So when they're doing, when they do those stats and they say, we're at an all-time low for unemployment, sure, that might be, but that's because a lot of people couldn't even claim unemployment because they weren't working last year. I know attorneys that live in the Santa Ana riverbed. They just never came back from the depression of it all. How hard is it for you to find staff, to find people to be able to get the projects done?
Well, what's funny? It's actually not been a problem, and I feel horrible saying that, but I only need right now 10 people, and I can maintain a base of 6 very easily, and it's always keeping and maintaining that last 40 to 50% of the people. So, I went out to hire 2 people this last November, and you know what? I only had to wade through 10 applicants, and I did an experiment with Facebook. Facebook came out with their job posting specific thing there, and honestly, I wanted to do an experiment, controlled as possible, to just find 2 people, and it actually worked out really well. And but I don't know, you try to make your company and yourself as attractive as possible and offer somebody something more than just a manual labor job, and you just hope for the best. And so far I've been lucky. But, you know, Amazon is opening up a distribution center 1 mile from where I'm sitting right now, and they're already trying to fill thousands and thousands of jobs. So I consider myself very lucky, and I do agree with the the unemployment numbers are one way of measuring it. To me, it's kind of like standardized testing, where yes, it measures something, but whether that
Yeah.
something is actually useful, who knows? But I do know nationwide, like if right now, if I had to go out and hire 10 people, it would be much harder than it was maybe 5 years ago to hire 10 people.
Yeah. Now, so what are some of those things that you're seeing affecting that? And I would assume so. You found the two people that you were looking for. Um, are you so you're not affected
No,
much, right?
not at all.
Um, okay. Um, so there are some trends though. There are like so the Amazon's opening up. So I know my kids. My oldest is would be looking to go work at Amazon next.
Absolutely.
My youngest, he was always more the kind of the build it with your hands type of a guy. He wanted to go play football when that bubble burst, and he realized, he had to go get a job. Well, he didn't see working at an office or work in retail, but he's also not willing to put in the hard work and start at the bottom. So he's got a family member who works at the oil rigs in Long Beach,
Hmm.
and so he's looking at going and working at the oil rigs and clearing 100 grand by next year. You know, so I'm seeing just even in my own personal life, there's the people, that value of kind of get down and do something and feel like at the end of the day you've accomplished something. That part's not happening anymore. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing people leaning towards medical, leaning towards engineering, leaning towards, kind of keeping their hands kind of clean.
Yeah, and
So are
people
you?
people ask me a lot of the times too about, well, why aren't these millennials into trade jobs? Don't they know how good they can do? Well, it's not specifically them. It's the people that I have hired don't seem to be as aware of jobs that don't require a liberal arts education. So it's not that they know that they can be a carpenter or a CNC machiner and just choose not to. It's not something that's circulating in their world. And when I meet with these young people, and my target group is usually 18 to 23-year-old people who sort of have done some stuff, a little bit of school, a little bit of work, but just need something more. And when I kind of tell them, when I lay out a 2-year apprenticeship program, and then I can say, this is what 5 years looks like for you with me, 10 years, this is a lifelong commitment, we can do these great things. I show them pictures of cool stuff we do. It's like you can see a sort of like awakening, like, oh, I didn't even know. I just thought, like all the roofing contractors, you use me for 6 months until my back breaks, and then you throw me away, and then you find some more. It's like, oh, you actually put thought into this, and it's sort of this. It's neat to see them discovering it almost.
Now that sounds fairly unique, and I would venture to guess that if Nick May were on, he'd probably have something similar where he's put the thought into his business. Um, I know that my son grew up with a friend, and his dad owned a painting company, and he did it haphazardly.
Most do.
He inherited, yeah, he inherited a small condo. He flipped it, did well with that, bought a house, flipped it, and then he kept flipping. And then in the process, because he was painting so much, that he decided, well, let me just keep on a couple of people, because now he had a few different properties. And suddenly he was now a painting company. And this guy does not have a future outlook for his employees. He does kind of treat them that other way. Um, for the designers that are watching, and Anna just liked one of the deals. Anna Martinez Stumpo is a furniture manufacturer, and so again, it's those skilled trades, the tradespeople. Um, so finding
in school, there's like a couple of options, and I'm working with the local school district here in the Antelope Valley. There is, you get done with high school, you're either going to go get a job or you're going to go to college. When you're done with college, you're going to go get a job, or you're going to continue going to school. Um, there's not the entrepreneurial route, and in schools, they're teaching them how to work on airplane engines now, not just car engines.
Yep.
Like we've got this expectation when you come out the gate that's kind of unrealistic. Um, now I would say that you and Nick are probably an exception. Do you feel that you guys are an exception
Well,
in the
we were
industry?
just talking about this, and an interesting bit of perspective that I gained in the last couple of years is that there's probably 150,000 painting contractors in the United States, and it's believed that maybe 145,000 of those are basically one-man outfits. So, when you talk to a guy like Nick May, he's in the point 0.5 of 0.5 of 0.5% of what paint business owners actualize. They have systems, they have ways of doing things. They run a legitimate business with insurance and they pay taxes. I mean, that is not the industry norm. There is absolutely no barrier to entry in my industry. And what you'll find is, open up a phone book or Google search, call the first 20 painters there. You'll run into one Nick May for every, 20 single man outfits who, rusty van, bent ladder sort of thing. So I am probably more like most people than Nick May. Nick May runs a fine outfit.
Hmm. What so then designers, because in groups they're saying that on their end, and again maybe this has more to do with that the majority of painter contractor companies are kind of one man outfits. I was in a chat last night with a person, and she was saying, "Oh well, I've got this guy, and that one guy is very reliable, and he'll also set up furniture for me." So so is it possibly then just that it's just who they're finding in their local area? Because designers are saying that there's a long lead time, they're overbooked, there's not enough people. Um, I talked with a few schools. They're saying the same thing. It's harder for them to get students to pursue the trades. But is it just you know is it just their experience and where what they're dealing with?
Well,
Or
yeah, and I think, in our minds, we probably think of an experience at McDonald's and with our painting contractor. And, at McDonald's, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's predictable. Nothing ever really surprises you there. But with painting contractors, especially when you're dealing with one human being, that can either be the greatest person you've ever met or an absolute crook and somebody who's actually a horrible person. So you're dealing with a proliferation of very distinct personalities, and you couple that with there is not a franchise model. There's not a business plan that we all follow, and I would argue that most painters don't choose to be painters. Most painters fall into being a painter because there is no barrier to entry. So, once in a while you run into a Nick May where you call and you actually talk to somebody and you get on the schedule and you get some predictable work done. But that's in our field. It's just not the case. There's usually no licensing. I mean, in some major metropolitan cities, there's some business licensing you have to do, but there is not a statewide certification like for electricians or plumbers that you have to have for this. So, your frustration is probably due based on the people I've seen out here.
I'm curious. I'm curious. It's probably financially for the people hiring contractors. You probably end up with some pretty good deals because it isn't overly regulated. Um, so there's, I mean, with that you probably end up with kind of whatever you end up with. But
Absolutely.
but is regulation is that an answer, or would that actually cause more problems?
I'm not a smart enough person to know that. Instead of maybe regulating the business, having a minimal background check would be great. you know, but then all of a sudden you run into a whole bunch of other, you know, sort of things. Well, then are you excluding people with misdemeanors or felonies from owning business? They should have a chance too. So it's the tried and true system is still word of mouth. Um,
Yeah.
Nick and I were actually just talking about that, where, you know, in everybody wants to know, where do you find work? Is there a magic website? How to use Facebook? How to use Instagram? All this and that. It's exciting, and it does bring in work. It brings in work that you can measure. But somebody in my field, 90% of our work is still word of mouth. So honestly, that's it, and it's not a system, you know, but it's the only reliable way to find an unreliable source.
Yeah. So this is a new format, and I'm trying this out because next week we've got Donna Moss booked, and then the week after that we've got Sandra Funk. I'd love to give other people the chance to call in and talk with you as well, because I am not the smartest guy in the deal. I just am here to host it. So, but I'm sure that people have questions. Nick was calling in as well. So, hey, for everybody watching, hit the share button. The like button's nice. Don't hit the like button. Hit the share button. Sharing's caring. And then also join in. Nick, I don't know if you're still going to be in the queue, but go ahead and hit the join in button again. Nick, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to have you exit out. And then if you could join me again on Facebook, that way I can plug in, we can get you on the line answering questions from people. And they'll be able to hear your voice, but they won't. We won't be doing the share screen. That way, they get a chance to share screen as well.
So call you through social Messenger.
Yeah, through Messenger.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay. All right, thanks, Nick. I'm going to try to add in Nick May here. Let's see, Nick, if you're still there. Nope, it looks like he popped off. So, Nick, go ahead and join in on the call. There we go. Invite. And then we'll see about getting Nick. Hey, Nick.
Here I am.
How's it going, man?
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what was going on, but my join in the button was gone, so I had to pop off, and then I came back on, and then it was there again. So here I am.
I think if it waits for a while, so then Nick's going to join us again on Messenger here. And I'm going to try this format because next week I've got Donna Moss on, and then the week after I've got Sandra Funk, and then I am looking at Jonathan Adler, Candace Olson.
Look at you go.
Ken Folk. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think it'll be a cool format for people to be able to call in and talk to, like, when we get Nick on here, we'll be able to hear his voice, but he won't be on the screen. It'll give more people the opportunity to call in and talk.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great.
it should be pretty.
So it's so funny.
The idea is
so funny. I just literally got off the phone with Nick, and I knew that this was going on, so I popped up into Facebook, and then there's FaceWatch. I was like, "What? What's going on?"
That's too funny. You got the Nicks on. Well, and then the way that I found him too, I had just posted this topic. Okay, here we go. Cool. All right. So you guys were just talking a few minutes ago.
Yep.
And then what were, kind of, I don't mean to, if you guys were setting up a future show.
Yeah.
You were listening to what Nick was saying, and Nick, I'm going to keep slaughtering your last name, so I keep avoiding it. How do I say your last name? Slavic. Okay, so Nick Slavic, we're just listening to Nick Slavic talk about the industry. Nick May, what's your take on it?
Well, I think so. I was listening to what you guys were talking about, and I don't want to beat this to a dead horse with paint contractors, but I think a lot of trades, a lot of contractors are dealing with a lot of the same situations, like you guys were talking about, the limited workforce. But I think it goes a little bit beyond that, because most contractors they don't know how to run a business. I mean, I'm just being blunt. Like Nick was saying, only 5%, really grow larger than a couple of guys, and because of that, they're painting all day. And the business side of it, whether that's doing estimates, whether that's meeting with designers, whether that's hiring new guys, all that stuff has to happen in kind of the off times. And so it's a lot of times it's an afterthought.
So then with you and with Nick Slavic, so how have you guys managed to grow your business then? Because I would assume that this is probably people getting into a business but not necessarily understanding a business. And I'll say that the same thing is very prevalent within the design industry.
Oh yeah.
You started working on some projects, and then a family member, and then a next door neighbor, and suddenly you're an interior designer.
Yep.
But maybe you go back to school for it.
Yep.
Some people don't.
Yeah. And I would say,
you're in business.
I would say probably only 5% of the design community ever grows larger than maybe 1 or 2 people. So it's the same thing over there. But when you're a designer and you've got a couple of customers that you're working with, you don't have to be there 100% of the time while you're working with that customer. As a paint contractor, nobody wants me to go start their job and go, hey, we're just going to work for 1 day and then we'll be back in like a week, right? No, we've got to go get on a job, stay on there until the whole thing is completed. And if I've got 2 jobs, I've got to have enough people for 2 jobs to start and complete. So it's, there's some different dynamics that happen when you're running a painting or any other contracting business where you've got people. And I don't know if I missed the first couple minutes, Joe, when you first started, but this topic actually started with being in that chat room, right? We were talking about some of the designers were having a hard time, getting guys to come out. And I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents as far as what I see with working with designers. One of the designers actually in that chat room shared that, when she just even starts an initial conversation with customers, and I don't remember who that was, Joe.
I know that it was Claire Jefford's group,
yep.
And then I forget the girl that was kind of got the conversation going, but yeah.
But then there was somebody else that said, when she starts the conversation with a customer, she goes and contacts all of her, her subs and says, hey, we're looking at this project. I think we're going to be about 6-8 weeks out for your piece of it. Can you, kind of hold some time for me? And that's key critical. My biggest complaint with working with designers is that when they call me at the last minute and they've already got all this other work that's already started, like I can't move mountains in a week or 2 weeks. We're typically, and it's not just necessarily this time, it's pretty consistent for me. We're 6 to 8 weeks out. And I can move.
On your end, are you getting the same sort of thing, or when you're dealing with designers, and do you work with a lot of interior designers? And when you do, are they getting a hold of you last minute? Are they pretty much in a good habit of contacting you right away? At which point do you come into the project?
Well, I actually like to be, I certainly wouldn't step on any professional shoes, but I do like to be there early and often, and I request a formal relationship with the homeowner. My worst nightmare is, having a general contractor or a designer say, here's the colors, here's where they want them, and without meeting the homeowner, I'm very uneasy about that because, with my own company on a very small scale compared to what, all you designers do, I consult with color for 200 of my clients a year as part of the project. So, it's from my end, it's a quick and dirty sort of color thing, but it'd be foolish for me not to be involved with it only because I deal with it every day. So I really like to be involved early. If somebody comes to me with a project and says, everything's done, we just need you to come in and paint the walls, I'll usually request to go meet with the homeowner and make sure their wishes align with the designers.
And is that you as well? Nick, you already said you like to be contacted right away. Are designers, are they in the habit of that, or how's that working?
Well, it's, we end up not working with a lot of designers because of the fact that they'll be last minute. if we've got a relationship, we've done work with a designer, and they say, "Hey, Nick, we've got a project that we're going to need you in about 4 weeks." Now, we're large enough that a lot of times I can move mountains. I can move people around. We have, I think, 13 teams of guys. And so with the right relationship, now, if this is a brand new designer that I've never worked with before, I might not move mountains. But if I've built a relationship with you, I'm all about relationship. If I've got a relationship, we've done work in the past, like, give me some notice. And if you've met me halfway, I'm gonna do whatever I can to make sure that we can get your project going and get started. But it all comes down to communication, Joe. You know this.
Well, so what I'm hearing then, and I've been in a few other chat groups talking about this same thing, and it sounds like on your guys' end, from and I don't know how the employee and how hard it is to find employees for you, Nick May, but Nick Slavic was saying, well, it wasn't very hard. He needed to fill 2 spots, and it wasn't too hard for him to fill those 2 spots. If he had to start and grab 10 people, that might be an issue.
Right.
How's finding employees for you?
Well, we're a little bit of an anomaly, Joe, as you can probably imagine. I do things a little bit different. We have literally in 2017, I hired 1 or 2 guys every single month, and that wasn't enough to keep up with attrition and our growth for where we're at right now. So for 2018, our goal is 2 to 3 guys per month. So we've got in order for me to have a net positive gain of two painters every single month throughout the whole entire year. And hopefully we'll be able to keep our backlog to 6 to 8 weeks with that growth. So, but because I hire a lot differently than most painting companies, most painters, and I will say this goes for almost every tradesperson, every contractor, they will typically only hire guys that have experience. So what you end up having in an industry, and this is a big problem in our industry, is that you'll have painters that'll just go and offer $1 more an hour to painters over at another company. And so it's constantly this stealing of the same workforce from one painter to another painter to another painter. And so where we kind of, it helps us is we hire almost, I would say 90 to 95% of our guys with zero painting experience. And then we have a training program, and I know Nick Slavic has a training program for his guys as well. But that's helped keep us competitive in the marketplace. It's a huge competitive advantage that we have over our competition.
And Joe, a quick bit on that too. We talked about the differences between 95% of our industry is a one-man outfit. And without exception, you'll find that the 1 or 2 man outfits who don't have business systems in place and don't think about their business more than on just a technician's level, those are the ones who will say you just can't find anybody. But magically, the people with systems that approach hiring systematically and see it more as a sales task than it is a recruiting task. Those are the people who, it's not going to come easy, but you're certainly going to find the people you need.
Yep.
I heard that on another podcast or another chat room, that approach of hiring as more of a sales effort. You were selling a person on come work for us, and this is why we're a good place to work and stay with us, versus just hiring, where you're just filling spots.
And right now, Joe, when let's say unemployment is at full capacity, it's tough to find jobs. You have to sell your business. In the Great Recession, you were just recruiting. You were just trying to find, you're digging through bodies, trying to find the good ones. But now, everybody I've hired, I think I've hired 14 people in the last, 14 months, give or take. One person, I think, has not had a job that I've hired. Everybody else had come from an unrelated field. So you have to sell yourself. Well,
so there's a question on that one. So, even schools, the government, put a big emphasis on engineering and the medical field. And during the recession, a lot of contractors, they lost their jobs, so people are going and getting retrained in other industries. Are you finding people now coming back into the trades now that there's more work?
Well, right now, certainly the trades are more attractive, and I'm actually courting one person who has a unrelated, a liberal arts degree, who's been doing it for 10 or 15 years, and is, the job hasn't really lived up to its expectations, and he sees the trades as super rewarding. He's built a few houses himself, and he can see himself having daily satisfaction for the rest of his life, even if he makes slightly less money. So I think times like these make the trades very, very attractive. And if we don't sort of leap on those and take advantage of times like these, I think we've missed a big opportunity.
What about you, Nick May?
Sorry, what was the question again?
So are you finding that people that have left the trades and they were going and pursuing engineering and hospital work and this sort of thing, are you see them coming back out into the trades?
Personally,
I guess you would see that in people that had job experience and have it in the last year or so.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that. I to be honest, I haven't. I mean, most of the guys that we hire are fairly young. I think there's so much opportunity in some of those tech jobs, higher paying office jobs that, here in Denver, like tech is huge, and people are, they want to go make $100,000 sitting at a desk. So we've kind of gone out. I mean, my tactic is I have identified a group of people that don't typically get pursued. So anybody who listens to me or listens to my show might know that we go after, kind of the starving artist. So folks that paint or draw or sketch, they may have a few tattoos and be a little bit more colorful, but they also have a hard time finding jobs because people have written them off.
Yeah, interesting. So for those that are watching, and I saw Chad James is watching. Chad's got a large outfit, and I don't know if I'm frozen right now or not. So, and kind of what I was catching was that. So, and I guess what I'm hearing is that on the interior design side, they're saying that, man, it's hard to find. From talking to both Nicks, you guys are saying, hey, not like dead in the water. I guess we lost Nick May. So designers from the design side of it, feel free to call in, join the call. I'd love to hear from the designer side of it what the situation is on their side. So for you guys watching, Chad, if you could join in on the call, you have to join in from your cell phone. Your phone has to be in the horizontal position and just hit the green and white button. And for everybody watching, go ahead and hit the share button and share this topic with other people. And then Nick Slavic, Nick May fell off of the live.
Wondering now, between the different professions, let's say the design world versus the contractor world, my hiring ad consists solely of the line, I'm just looking for decent human beings. That's all I require. And just like Nick May said, the times I've hired the experienced guy, the Craigslist guy who's got 20 years of experience, it's been a complete disaster. So now, my thinking is painting is very, very easy, when you know what you're doing, and you can train somebody. So I've always thought, find decent human beings because you can't train them to be that. Now, I have a very easy trade to learn. I'm wondering for technical fields. I mean, you're not going to do that with, tech people. You're not going to say, hey, I just need a decent human being. You might be able to teach them a little, but I wonder if the barrier to entry isn't a little higher, so you guys have to go at it a little different.
Good question. And Nick was saying that, so he's able to vet people based off of, are they a good person? Because then you can train them how to do the job. I know one of the brothers from Three Brothers Racing, and his hiring practice is, well, he's out. He will, if he sees somebody who's got good customer service and is just, he hires happy people. That's his hiring practice. It might sound weird, but the guy believes that he can train you to do any job. So then he likes to promote from within. He'll get a person who's a happy person, and he will give them their first accounting job. So to your point, Nick Slavic, no, you can't train happy. You can train everything else. The president of the United States is swapped out every, hopefully, 4 years and 8 years. But we get a new guy without previous experience every 4 or 8 years. So you can learn how to do anything. You can't learn how to be happy. So good hiring practice, Nick Slavic.
Well, and I would say work ethic too. You got to hire on personality. Like one of the things that I look for, and we talk about this in every single interview, is that you got to have the get shit done attitude. So we like guys that get on the job sites, and I hear this constantly from our customers. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how hard your guys work or your gals work. I don't even think they took lunch. And so that's kind of one of the things that we really look for. And because we're training, they don't have to be. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about having A, B, or C players. And so we kind of look for those B and C players, and we try to turn them into A players.
I had a company a while ago, and they had brought on a business consultant, and the business consultant said that they were gonna weed out the D's and the F's and the C's, and they wanted nothing but A and B players. And I was like, so that's never going to happen. Yeah, I mean, in any organization, you've got 10% that actually do the heavy lifting. Then you've got a chunk of people. The biggest chunk of people show up to work regularly. They're not heavily engaged, but you can count on them to be there. And then you've got the people at the bottom that are your pain in the ass people. And if you can learn how to listen to those guys, some you just have to cut loose, and I've got no issue cutting people. But if you listen to those guys, they'll let you know, one, they give everybody else this thing to look down at. That guy that's always late, I hate that guy, but it makes everybody else show up on time. As long as you can manage that bottom group, and as long as they don't infect the rest of the group, then you're pretty good. But and as long as they don't ruin your business. But yeah, to have all A and B players, man, that's a difficult one.
Joe, I always talk about everyone's got problems. It's just what problems can I put up with? If they communicate well with our customers, they do a really good quality job. They can be slow. I don't mind that, as long as they're doing good stuff. You can also be somebody that's late for me, because we have systems in our business that kind of compensate for some of that. But as long as you're doing good quality work and you communicate well, then we can deal with that. But, the folks that have a bad attitude, for me, like we just had that fire one of the painters on my team because she just had a bad attitude, and we tried to deal with it. We tried to talk about it. We tried to coach her through it, and it wasn't going to go away. And so, sometimes you just got to cut those loose.
Yeah. So for those watching, this was a conversation on the designer side of it. The designers are saying that they were having a hard time with this. So designers, I invite you to call in. Donna Moss is actually watching right now. On the designer side of it, if you guys could call in too, I'd love to hear your guys' side of it. From the painter contractor side of it, it sounds like you guys are able to find people. You guys are scheduled out, which is great for any business. That's awesome. I'd love to hear the other side of it. I'd love to hear the part where because I was hearing a disconnect.
Well, Joe, I want to add something to it. Now, you're talking to two different paint contractors that I'm going to say, I don't mean to sound like I have a big head, but we got our shit together. And like Nick was talking earlier, you know, 95, well, let's be a little bit more generous, 85% of them that are out there don't have their shit together. So that means they don't plan, they don't hire before they need it, they don't communicate well. And so when you're up against that and you as the designer are waiting to the last minute and you're going to hope that somebody else that doesn't have a well-organized company is going to be able to show up to you on time. And people just have the hard time of saying, they can't say no. And so a painter will be out there and he's got like 2 helpers, right? He's got a bunch of work, but he's got a designer that calls him and says, hey, I need you on this project, you know, next week. We've given you a lot of work. What do you think he's going to say? Sure, I'll be there. Yeah. Right? And then they let you down. Well, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So you've really got to have those hard conversations. And, you know, right as I was getting on, people were talking about getting referrals and doing all that kind of stuff. I'm going to say you got to take it a step further than referrals, because I've gotten referrals from people and they don't mean anything because they don't have the same kind of attitude or understanding about business that I do. I've got to vet that person for myself. I've got to use them on a small project. Let's test them small. And then if it goes well, let's move them up to another project. Let's not move them from a 2-bedroom, you know, project all the way up to a $6,000 project. That's way too big of a jump, right? Because you've all heard the time where the designer's like, well, the last time I used him, he was awesome. But the last time it was like a $1,000 job, and now you gave him a $12,000 job. Well, that doesn't necessarily equate. So you really have to, I mean, it's the same thing with me with hiring employees. Like I hire somebody and I'm giving them small tests all along the way so that they don't ever hang me out to dry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I would assume, Nick Slavic, you've got kind of the same format for your crew, right? You've got a system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you try to bring sort of a method to the madness, and but scheduling still is a tough thing, especially when you get that call from that home builder or that designer that says, hey, you know, we got this condo downtown in Minneapolis and should be paint ready in about 2 weeks, and you're staring at your calendar. You've already hard booked out 6 weeks, you know, and got guys to work weekends, evenings, over Christmas, and you're just like, oh man, you don't want to lose that, because you hate to say, you know, that all your clients are equal, but honestly, there are some home builders or designers that, you know, I jump when the phone answers only because the amount of work they give me and how good they are to work with. So it's a very tough position to be put in, especially in an economy like this.
Yeah. I would love to, for the designers that are watching, I would love to get you guys' your viewpoint. We're wrapping up here in the next 5 minutes or so, but I would love for your guys' perspective.
Otherwise, and Joe, I would have a quick question for you in the design community, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
This is something that I run into often. A designer does an entire project, you know, a main floor redo of a house. Everything's set to go. We're there on site, and the first thing that happens is the homeowner comes up to you with a whole bunch of color swatches and goes, what do you think about these colors? And from my experience, you know that they're feeling iffy about it, but they don't want to question their expert. So as the painting contractor and somebody who does all the color for their clients, as a designer, what would you have me do in that situation?
So I'm not that guy. I build light fixtures for hotels and casinos. But I feel your pain. I was the mechanical designer, so yeah. I wasn't the project manager on the jobs. I was kind of you guys, except for I would have some interaction with the client, and we just like I was saying earlier. It started out as a painted fixture. And then the clients got me on the phone and they're like, oh, hey, can we switch this over to Ghost Chrome? And you're like, no. Run that through the project manager. What the hell are you asking me for?
A question for sort of the project manager of the design community as a whole then.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I would love for any designers, maybe we could pick that up in the chats or something. But I would say, yeah, it's an awkward position to be in. I'm in your guys' shoes on that one.
Yeah, Nick, I would say I can answer from my perspective of what I've experienced with designers. Now, Edmund just answered that designers typically want you to always refer the client back to the designer. So if you get cornered by the homeowner, like we've learned, I've just known this for years and a day, that if a customer asks me, I've got to go, you know what, that's a great question for Chad, or Susie or whatever. But what I also do when I first start working with a designer, I will always have a side conversation before we're in a house or before I'm, putting them on the spot. I'll ask them, hey, if the homeowner asks me for my opinion, what do you want me to do? And so that has worked out pretty well. I remember this one time I was with a designer who, she actually liked working with me because like Nick, I used to do all the color design for our customers. I don't do it anymore. But the customer had asked me right in front of the designer, but we'd already had the conversation. And so then I was able to feel confident that I wasn't going to step on any toes. So you just always have to be open with your communication.
And I would say that so I'm in the same boat as you guys are on that one, but I was just listening to Ken Folk talk about that, and so as a designer, they signed up for the role of part. Oh, who was that? That wasn't Ken. It was somebody else. I forget who. But so Corey.
Damon Jenkins.
Damon Jenkins, yeah,
Yep.
was just saying they as part of their role, they are designer / marriage counselor.
Oh yeah, I saw that post.
So at the end of the project, he billed them $500,000 for marriage counseling as a joke, and the client thought that was hilarious. That's their role, though. I don't know a designer that isn't part marriage counselor, part designer, part everything else, and it's their job to juggle this stuff. The cabinet guy just is in there to get the job done. That's for the other guy to figure out. Now, the homeowner hires you directly, then that's you guys. But I know from my end, I was, hey, go talk to the project manager. Even though my role for the company was I oversaw the project managers, it still was the same thing. It still was, hey, we've got a system in place. Go talk to them. I don't know how off the cuff that affects the budget.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and
but I would say that.
Go ahead, Nick.
I would say share with the designer right away, because this is kind of a client that's kind of undermining the system. So get yourself out of the pickle and go share with the designer right away.
I like it.
I would also say that customers will always want your opinion on color. And so they may not be asking you for like a color option, but if the designer's already picked colors and comes to the contractor, well, you see this stuff every day. I don't know how many times I've heard that. You see this stuff every day. What do you think? And I can't tell you how many times I've heard from designers where everything has gone south between the designer and the homeowner because the paint contractor opened his mouth and said, oh, well, I don't like that color. Like, the painter doesn't know. Like, the painter shouldn't, and I don't care if you're talking about paint or the tile guy or the trim guy, they shouldn't be putting their nose in and saying, oh, I wouldn't do that if it was my project. No, whatever it is the designer picked, like, they're the one that brought you the job. Like, you need to be like, oh, that looks awesome. You're on their team. Like, you got to be a team player and be like, that's awesome.
And to that point, I'll say that if you were to look at my light fixtures halfway through, you'd be like, oh God, where's this thing going?
Right.
On designers, I was just last week talking with Rod Gantos on live last week, and he was saying the same thing. Like, halfway through a project, it looks like shit. And it can get really scary right about that. It's like cleaning out the garage. Halfway through, you're going like, oh God, when's this going to end? You don't see it come together till, the very end.
Yeah.
And so it can get very scary for people. That's when the doubts start creeping in. That's when the conflict happens. But and mind you, even with the designers, unless they're designing the same thing over and over again, this is new ground for them too. So you're all kind of waiting to see how the whole thing turns out. But yeah, I'd say you guys have a lot of experience in it. For the other contractors who might be watching or might watch the video later, have trust in the system, and I think it sounds to me like just from listening to watching the chats and then hearing you guys, both of you Nicks, it sounds like just it kind of goes back to the good old communication rule. Just come together as a team. It sounds like designers on the front end, when you know who's going to be involved, you've got a cabinet guy, you've got a tile guy, you've got carpet, you've got at the very front end, say, hey, this is what we could have coming down the pipeline. Let's get on the same page with it. It sounds like communication. Probably easier said than done. Well,
yeah, it's amazing how much improvement there is out there to be had if we all just master the basics.
Yeah, right. Just talk so we can all get along. Well, thank you, Nick, for being on. Nick May got bumped off again. For next week, we're going to have Donna Moss on. She's been on HGTV. She's currently doing the Dallas Showcase House. So it'll be fun to have Donna on. We learned a few things about calling in on Messenger today. So it is possible. So I'm excited about that. So next week we'll have Donna Moss on. That'll be really interesting and fun. I hope this format worked out for you, Nick Slavic.
Oh, it was awesome. This is absolutely
Cool. Well, I'd love to have you on again, and then if you ever need people to be on your show, I'm sure that there's a lot of listeners, and I'd love to join you as well. Facebook Live has so many cool advantages. It's a little dicey, but it's got so many cool advantages. So.
Well, when we're at the tip of the spear here, we're sort of working on all the kinks, so that 6 months from now, this is going to be smooth as silk,
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm so glad. It was crazy timing, man, that we were launching this show, and then I popped over and saw you streaming live. So great meeting you, and then we'll have to meet up and talk. Would you mind in the comments section throwing your website? I did put it into the promos for the episode, but if you wouldn't mind throwing your website in, and that way people can find you.
No, I would be happy to, and I would love to have you on the Ask Painter show. And certainly, if you have any recommendations for any of your other sort of intrepid viewers and listeners, I would love that too.
Okay, great. And what, just so that I have an idea, and so that the audience can know too, are you primarily residential? Do you commercial? And do you do hospitality by any chance?
Yes, a little bit of everything. I'm mainly a residential contractor, and all the commercial, industrial, hospitality stuff is offshoots of the people whose houses I paint. So, if a guy owns a manufacturing facility, I painted his house, he's going to call me for that. Likewise, if he owns a hotel or a bed and breakfast, things like that.
Nice. Well, Nick will include his website in the comments, and then I'll share that as well. Next week we'll have Donna Moss on, and that'll be fun. I invite you guys to call in and talk. Join the call. The fun part about this call-in program is that ability to call in like Nick May did and be part of the conversation. Design Talk, the whole idea was not to sit and watch me talk in front of a camera, but was to give the design community a voice so that you guys could communicate with the design industry. I believe that the design industry should be listening to the people with their boots on the ground, the design community, instead of the design community just getting fed whatever the industry thinks will sell. And I think this is an opportunity for us to have a voice. So thank you guys for joining us on Design Talk today. I can't wait to hear your guys' conversation, facilitate the conversation next week when we have Donna Moss on. Thank you so much, Nick Slavic, for being on, and I look forward to getting to know you more.
Anytime. It's an absolute pleasure.
All right, have a great one.
You too, sir.
All right, bye.